So if you're a single parent and you're actively dating, there's a couple of things that I want you to keep in mind while you're choosing your mate. I got 3 stories to show you how this can go either way. And all 3 of them I actually lived myself. I'm about 8 or 9 years old. You know what I'm saying? My mother is just moving out of my grandmother's house, and we moved to these apartments that's about 2 or 3 blocks away. I'm like, yo, this is cool because I grew up with my grandmother. So, me living over here with my mother, you know what I'm saying? This could be a vibe right here. I'm going to have my own room again. Now I got my room over here. I got my room over there with my grandmother. You know what I'm saying? And everything is just perfect in my world. So I thought. So I come home from school one day. My grandmother's at my mother's house. They're still preparing the apartment for, the new tenants to move in, which was me and my mother. And I noticed this guy is in there, he's painting the hallway. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. That's probably why my grandmother had to come over here, because she had the key. She was going to be the one to let, whoever needed to come in there and service the apartment to be able to get in there, right? So cool. The next morning, it's a Saturday morning. I'm coming out my room, and who do I see in the hallway downstairs coming out my mother's room? My soon-to-be stepfather. But I didn't notice. So because of that bad decision, I tell you, for about 20 years, I did not like this guy until I finally got the nerve to be able to tell him the reason why I never liked you is because I was never introduced to you. So now let me give you a little bit of backstory. So before they even got married, my mother asked me, she was like, what do you think about him or whatever? And I was just like, I don't like him. You know what I'm saying? She was like, well, why? I said, because I feel like he thinks he's the man or something. You know what I'm saying? So her response was, well, he's the man to me. I don't know if that's a good impression, but you know what I'm saying? That was how my mother's voice was in my head when I was about 9 years old, right? This man and my mother, they came up with the idea that, oh, we got an extra room, which wasn't an extra room, it was my room. They wanted to bring his twin boys to come stay at our house and go to school, go to my same school. Now, mind you, like I said, these were twin boys, which means they already had their relationships. They already had their bonds. They had their memories. You know what I'm saying? They had so much in common because they literally spent their whole life together, and I didn't have anything in common with them, right? But now I go from this being my room to now we got 3 twin beds all over the room. There's really no room to walk, but we got 3 twin beds in there. And these 2 brothers that at night, they go to bed talking about their stories and the old school and they best friends, and they in my room, you know what I'm saying? So what did I used to do? As a 9 to 10-year-old kid, I did the best thing that I could. You know what I mean? I teased one of them. I act like I had one of their girlfriends in the bed with me, and like we were in there getting busy or whatever, and so they pretty much want to fight me. And then, you know what I'm saying, I get, you know what I mean? Whatever. So that was childish. I get that. But the bad decision was made because I went from being the only child to now I'm the youngest of 3, which 2 of them were actually twins, So fine, they used to try to make me go to his family's house, and his sister, for whatever reason, which would have been my step aunt, this woman treated me like dirt. She hated me. For whatever reason, she just didn't like me. But whenever the other boys came around, it was always a celebration. They wanted to talk to them. They played basketball on the same teams. They wanted them to rap for the whole family and everything. And I'm standing here like Mr. Doofy, because I'm tall. You know what I mean? All I could do was just stand there and be tall when I was 9. It came to a point where I just felt like an outsider in my own home. So what did I do? I stopped coming to my mother's house. I started after school, I get off the bus, I go to my grandmother's house, I eat, I do my homework, and before anybody could even ask for me, I'm in the bed. You know what I'm saying? Because I absolutely hated being over there in that house. I didn't have a good camaraderie with them. I didn't have a good relationship with him. He never took the time to meet me, to introduce me, to see if I was actually somebody that he would like. You know what I'm saying? Which brings me to my next story. My ex-wife that I talked about in a previous story when I talked about just surviving a cheating relationship, we had 2 daughters. And of course, when you get into a new relationship, what do? You always want to tell your new person, your version of the story. You want to make the guy look like, he left you and you're a damsel in distress and you just need somebody to come save the day. Fine, I get that. I don't really care. She used to go on MySpace and Facebook and whatever the social media was and try to drag me and uplift this other man like, oh, well, real men pay the bills before the bill is due. You know what I'm saying? Like things like that or whatever. I didn't care. I never cared to respond. Until one day, one of my daughters texted me a voice recording of this same man that she was with screaming at the top of his lungs to my other daughter. So needless to say, now I got to get involved. You know what I'm saying? We got to have a conversation. Nobody ever introduced me to this man. You know what I'm saying? But now it's time for me to introduce myself to him. Now, mind you, the reason why previously I hadn't introduced myself was because he was the third guy that she was with since I left. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like I felt like, all right, well, I need to introduce myself to everybody. Nah, I'm not that important. As long as I got my relationship with my kids and my kids feel like they can come to me for any and everything, that's all I care about. You know what I'm saying? They got their financial support from me, and then they got their dad's support, and then they got their security. I told my ex-wife, I said, yo, let him know I want to talk to him. So well, about what? About what? She don't want me to have a conversation with this dude for whatever reason, unless she could be listening in on the other line, which I really didn't care about. I was going to say what I had to say. So when I first spoke to him, this dude tried to be cute and say, well, we should have been met. We should have been had a conversation before this. And I had to break it down to him like, yo, first of all, you're not the first dude that she been with since I left. You know what I'm saying? That's number one. Number two, the only reason why I'm having a conversation with you right now is because I got a phone call and it was kind of disturbing because I'm listening to this grown ass man yelling at one of my daughters instead of picking up the phone or letting their mother handle it. So I had to tell him like, listen, man, I'm really that guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't cross my daughters. Don't cross my kids. Whatever she tells you about me, that's the story that she wants to keep that happened between me and her. I'm not here to drag her or anything like that. All I'm here to do is say that those are my kids in there. And if you don't feel like my kids can be controlled by you, by no means should you be screaming to the top of your lungs till your voice is changing. You should either tell her and let her handle it, or one of y'all call me and let me handle it. I can either talk to my daughters or I can pull them out of the situation and give them a second option on where they want to live if they're really being that unruly. I go back to her. What I'm asking you is, please don't make these guys feel so comfortable that they can say whatever they want to say because you made me look like the absent father. You made me look like the bad guy where I just abandoned the house, and we all know what the story was. We don't have to talk about the story. That's not important. What's important is that these guys know that my kids are attached to a man that will do anything for them. So this was her response. Well, you can't tell me what to do, and I'm gonna do what I want to do, and your daughter is just disrespectful and whatever. And I'm just like, yo, I don't think you hearing me. You're really gonna put this man in a situation if I get another phone call like that. You got to make sure that the guy knows how to interact with other people's kids. You know what I'm saying? Now let me tell you one story, and I got to give a shout out to my oldest son's mother, right? We met in high school. We had our oldest son fresh out of high school. She was a senior at high school, whatever. We didn't even last till he was 2 years old, right? So she had got with this other guy, who's she's actually been with for like almost 30 years. I felt like this guy was an excellent role model because I never heard any cheating scandals. I never heard any violence in the household or whatever. My son never came back to me and told me, yo, daddy, he did this, or he put his hands on me, or he touched me, or you know what I'm saying? Or I'm scared. There's never been any kind of message like that I got from my son. So I felt like, yo, this guy is a real good dude. I appreciate him. And I even told him, I appreciate you being in the house and teaching my son, little things like, this is what a mother and a father looks like in the house. My son also knew that I was daddy. You know what I'm saying? I was very active in my son's life. And, fast forward, and I even raised my son. But this is where the story gets so beautiful, why I salute this man. I tried to talk to my son's mother. I really like to have the opportunity to raise my son and to teach him some things from a male perspective. Your husband can teach him some things or whatever, but he's going to most likely have my personality because he has my DNA. So I want to teach him some things about himself so that he'll grow into manhood with a guide. So She wasn't trying to hear none of that. She was like, I don't want him to go out there. It's too soon. He's only, 11 years old. And I'm like, yo, but we talked about this before that when he get ready to go to middle school, he gonna start with that smart mouth. He gonna need to come to be with me because I'm gonna need to have to deal with him like a man. You know what I'm saying? And show him how you respect women, how you respect authority, how you be responsible, how you make up your bed and iron your pants and all the stuff that I learned when I was little, right? She wasn't trying to hear none of that. So what did I have to do? I called up her husband. Again, I salute this man. I say, yo, look, man, y'all can have the tax refund money. Y'all can claim them on your taxes. Y'all can still see him whenever you want to. I'll bring him to the airport, whatever it is I need to do. The only thing I want to do is raise my son. At the time, they didn't have any kids together. So I told them that was more time for y'all to go ahead and build, because since y'all been together, y'all were instant family. Y'all were ready-made family with a mother, a father, and a child. That little boy is my responsibility. Let me get him. When y'all want to see him, I have no problem with getting them out there to you. You know what I'm saying? But, just let me do this. He was like, yo, don't worry about it. Let me talk to her. You know, she not easy to talk to, especially when it comes to him. So I'm like, yo, thank you, man. Yo, she came back. He was like, yo, she gonna call you. She called me. She was like, all right, so when do you want to do this? So I was like, well, let's start with the summer, because he had never spent a long, full summer with me without having to go home in between. So he came out there for the summer. He absolutely loved it. He wanted to stay out there. He was with his other brothers and sisters. You know what I'm saying? He had me. I'm an awesome dad. I'm fun. I play ball with him. You know what I'm saying? I do all the things that keep my kids engaged and for me to stay involved in their lives, right? We tried it for the summer. So I believe that he actually had to get involved one more time for me, and just to kind of sell this idea like, yo, let's try it for a year. The first year my son came and stayed with me, my son went from a DNF student with his mother to AB honor roll in the first marking period living with his dad. I say all of that to say, when you choosing a man, choose a man that can love your kids because they came from you. You don't want somebody there that's only going to love you, that's only going to be into you and, want to push the kids away. Want to smother or not really understand this kid's dynamic over here goes from being an only child to being one of three. You know what I'm saying? This kid that grew up in his grandmother's house now has to come home. And why is he always at his grandmother's house? We going to my family's house this weekend. You know what I'm saying? I absolutely hated it, and because of that first relationship with my mother's husband, it fractured our relationship all of these years. With the second instant, needless to say, my daughter's mother and her guy are not even together anymore. All that yelling and the stuff that this guy used to do was a waste. You almost ruined my daughter's experience of being teenagers if they didn't have sense enough to tell daddy what was going on. You look at my son, I could tell y'all this, man. My son is on this platform and he got a lot of followers. He got a lot of visitors. People watch him. He got a great head on his shoulders. And I attribute that to, of course, the effort that I put in and the focus on detail that I put in his life, but also his mom's sacrifice and his stepdad's conversation. Marcus, I'm gonna shout you out, man. I gotta shout you out, man. I always tell you every time I see you that I appreciate everything that you did. I appreciate you stepping in. I appreciate you being that father figure in the household when I couldn't be that father figure. And I celebrate you, and I wish there was more men like you. So look, man, that was my story, man. Let me know what y'all think down in the comments. Like, comment, subscribe. Man, let me know if you're a single parent and you're dating. Have you encountered anything like this? It can go either way with that, man. All I want y'all to do is put them kids first. Think about them kids. And until next time.